Hey, welcome to our first session. I am so glad that we're working together. I'm so excited to convey the information and the knowledge that I've been accumulating for the past 10 years, the knowledge of the patients that I've been working with and the experiences that I've had, and so glad to be passing it on to you. We have so many things to learn. This is our first video, and we're going to be talking today about subconscious programming. We're going to be talking about how society in general gets programmed into believing that women have to have a horrible birth. We'll talk about how that happened, thousands of years ago, and we'll also talk about how that continues to compound even nowadays, and how the subconscious mind holds on to that programming. And when I use the word programming, by the way, I'm talking about what the mind believes or how we react based upon the information that we've learned in the past. So that's all programming means. Don't let the word scare you. We're also going to be talking about how to get out of or how to protect yourself from other things that women may say, or things that you may see on TV, or things that you may hear from society or outside of your circle that may scare you into believing that you have to have a bad birth. You're going to have a baby, right? You're getting close. Maybe you're in the first trimester, second or third trimester. Maybe you only have a week left. I don't know. But if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that pretty soon you're going to be holding a little package that you've been growing inside of your body for the past X amount of months. What have you been thinking? What do you believe that birthing has to be like? Those are important questions to ask yourself. These are questions that I always ask the people that I work with. Because you have a certain perception about birthing. You believe that birthing has to be a certain way. And if you have a belief system that's negative, it's my job to help you change that to a positive belief system. Actually, we're going to be working together so we can change that belief system. How important is it to change that belief system? It's extremely important. Because when you change your belief system about something, your body and your mind are going to react in a different way, which is going to eventually produce for you an amazing birth, an incredible birth. Stuff that I've been talking about ever since you saw me in the first video. So how does society in general get programmed into believing that they have to have a horrible birth? And how does this filter onto you? Well, in the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth, well, that wasn't supposed to happen. But anyway, all joking aside, it says in the Bible, in the beginning when God created the heavens and the earth, there was man and woman, there was Adam and Eve. And what did God command woman and man not to do? Told them not to eat from the fruit of knowledge. They could eat any fruit that they wanted to, but they could not eat from this one fruit. And as the story goes on, the woman was tempted to accept and to believe that she could eat from this fruit and nothing would happen to her, and she went and touched it and nothing happened, and she ate it and nothing happened. She gave it to man and nothing happened to her husband Adam, and nothing happened to him. Well, before I continue, don't worry, it's not a Bible class. I am leading up to something that's important. Any case, he eats it, and then something does happen. They both acquire some form of knowledge. They realize that they're naked. And they confront God, and God says to them, what did you guys do? Did you guys eat of the fruit that I told you not to eat from? They said, yes. Okay, well, there's going to be punishment for having done that. The punishment that you're going to have, Eve, is that you are going to have pain when you give birth. You're going to have pain in labor. Now, you may be a religious person watching this video. You may not be a religious person watching this video. Either way, I'm going to talk to both of you. For the person that is religious, go and check the source. Please, look at the book. Look at the good book. And notice that it says, you, Eve, I'm going to give you a difficulty in birth. I'm going to give you pain, increasingly. It doesn't say that every woman has to have pain. A lot of people, back then especially, and even today, have interpreted to believe that it is speaking to every single woman out there. Well, maybe you never read the Bible. I don't know. But I'll tell you, as a child, adults, caretakers, teachers, religious influences talk to us about how things are supposed to be. And in society, if you begin with a belief that says that you have to have pain in labor, then guess what? That's what people believe. Now again, if you're religious, please check your source. If you're not religious and don't have a belief in the Bible, I respect your belief. I respect everybody's beliefs. However, If when you were young, you were taught that there has to be pain in labor, this is going to be one of the first seeds that are planted in your subconscious mind to begin a belief system that says there has to be pain in labor. Now that's very important, because that not only filters into you when you're a child, but it also filters into society in general, as we mentioned. It filters into movies. It filters into how birthing is personified. Now, if you've ever seen a movie with a woman giving birth, how do they usually portray the woman giving birth? It's not a pleasant birth with the woman with the eyes closed, having a great birth, smiling, and her husband is beside her holding her hand, and honey, we're just about to have a baby. It's the woman with her legs up, and she's screaming, and she's cursing the husband. This is all your fault, your fault, your fault, right? And you may even have this image going on in your head. And this is what also compounds the belief system that women have to have a difficulty in birth. Well, I'll tell you, it doesn't have to be this way. But you do have to realize that this is the beginning of subconscious programming. I'll back up a little bit. The actual real beginning of your subconscious programming in birthing as a woman is the way that you were birthed. Now, if your mom had a very difficulty in birthing, she had a difficult birth, and she had the same experience that is personified in society, that is personified in movies, in books, in magazines, etc., then that's going to be transmitted to you into your subconscious mind. This is going to be deeply embedded into your thoughts. So this little belief system, even though you were very young and didn't understand, that experience was already implanted into your subconscious mind. And as time goes by, if this is portrayed over and over and over again, we do something in our subconscious mind called compounding. We're going to talk about compounding in a little bit, but just know that this belief system gets stronger and stronger as it's reinforced. Did you know that you were programmed? Does that sound scary? You know, there was a guy in one of my seminars that said to me, Israel, I do not like the word program when it refers to me. And there's good programming and bad programming. We've talked about that already in this video. Good programming is your heartbeat, good programming is the way that you breathe, and that's already innate programming, things that are in your body, your automatic responses. These responses are linked to your subconscious mind, believe it or not. Now think about it. If you had to think about breathing or your heartbeat, most likely would die. So it's an automatic response, and it continues to function even while you sleep. Another example is, think about when you're anxious or when you're nervous. What happens to your breathing and what happens to your heartbeat? It tends to go up, doesn't it? That's because your subconscious mind is already programmed in some way to suck in more oxygen into your body so you can fight or you can fly. Fight or flight response. You've learned about that, I'm sure, in high school. What is the subconscious mind, my dear pregnant mom? The subconscious mind, I'm sure you've heard about the subconscious mind a million times. You've heard about subconscious responses. You've heard about things being in the unconscious. That's the same thing as subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is that part of you which is your identity. What you are, who you are, how you respond, your habits, your emotions, and, by the way, a warehouse of information of all of the things that you learn in your entire life, even when you were in your mommy's womb. Your baby, as it is now, if it's about, let's say, 5 to 6 months, if it's a fetus already, then many say that it already has the ability to hear. So please be very careful with what you say around your baby. Do we have proof for any of these things? Yes, we do. In fact, I have one of my patients that I regressed to a very early age, and that person was about 7 months, 8 months in his mom's womb. He heard his parents fighting, and something occurred there which I cannot reveal, but that person went to his mom at one point and he said to her, did this ever happen with you and Dad? She said, how did you know that? I never told you. So it was something that was already in his subconscious mind. That is the subconscious mind, your warehouse of information. As time goes by, your subconscious mind learns, it amasses information, and it creates your identity. Let me give an example, quick example about how the subconscious mind learns so that you can prepare yourself in life. Let's give an example about a girl named Susie, a little girl named Susie. Now this is a common example, this happens a lot, this may even happen with your children or people that you know. Let's say that little Susie was a very calm girl, very sweet girl, very nice girl. And one day she was at her aunt's house and her cousin asked for a cookie. And her mommy said, "You can't have it." And the little girl began to scream and cry, and she threw a temper tantrum. Now, Susie never saw a temper tantrum, but she learned that day what a temper tantrum was. And she began to amass the information for later on in her life to be able to use it. Now, one day Susie was at her house, and she said to her mom, "Mommy, can you do me a favor? Can you give me a cookie?" And Mommy said no. What did Susie do? She reached back into her memory banks when her cousin threw a temper tantrum, and she got a cookie. So Susie said to herself, this is all on the unconscious level, he said, maybe if I throw a temper tantrum, I'll get a cookie too. So she began to scream and cry just like her cousin did. Now Mommy has one of two choices. She either gives her the cookie and she reinforces the fact that Susie says, oh, if I throw a temper tantrum, I'm going to get what I want. Or she says, Susie, you can cry if you want to, but you still cannot get what you want. Susie is going to form a perception depending upon what her mother said and depending upon what her experience was. Now, when Susie forms her perception, she's going to form a protective factor around that idea. Her perception and her idea are going to be the same. So let's say that Susie formed a perception that says that when I scream and cry, I get what I want. She's going to file that in her subconscious mind for later use. And she's going to use that to her advantage in the future. If she continues getting what she wants, she will continue to do the same thing. If she doesn't get what she wants when she screams and cries, she's going to have to change her perception and she's going to have to form what's called a protective factor around that idea. What does a protective factor means? It just simply means that she's going to protect the idea that already exists. She's going to form an identity about it. Let me give you a more concrete example. You have learned that this is a circle, right? Wrong. Of course not. You're looking at me and you're saying, this guy's crazy. Of course it's not a circle, it's a rectangle. And the reason why you're telling yourself that it's a rectangle is because you've learned that it's a rectangle. So anything contrary to that belief system is going to contradict that in your mind. You're automatically going to reject that. And if you want a more technical name for this protective factor, let's say, it's called the critical factor in hypnosis terms. So whenever we learn an idea, we create what's called the critical factor about that idea so that we can always protect that idea and eventually build our identity. Now, how does all of this relate to birthing? Well, as time goes on and as you learn and grasp perceptions in life about birthing, you're going to form a critical factor about that perception. So if you believe, and if you have believed all your life that birthing is very difficult, that's exactly what you're going to believe later on in life, especially now when you're pregnant. If you believe that birthing is going to be an easy experience, that's what you're going to believe and, by the way, produce. Our job together is to change the belief system that says that it's difficult. Let's continue. How do you change the perceptions in your subconscious mind? Do you remember we talked about compounding a little while ago, about 5, 6, 7 minutes ago? We talked about ideas that were constantly being said to you and that you absorb them on a subconscious level and they build one on top of the other. The more they build, the stronger they become in your subconscious mind and the stronger your belief system becomes. Be careful with how you talk to yourself. Be watchful for how you talk to yourself. Listen to the way you talk to yourself. If you're telling yourself negative things, if you're telling yourself that birthing is going to be difficult, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be difficult, you got to change the way you talk to yourself. You have to start thinking of birthing in a more positive sense. Now, we have a lot of things to learn, like I said way at the beginning. I'm going to teach you how to do this. One of the first things you have to start doing is changing the language that you use when it comes to birthing. Now, think about this for a second. When we talk about giving birth, what words do we usually use? We use the word labor. Labor. We talked about that, in a few videos before. Labor. The word labor is a very negative word. Stop using the word labor when it comes to having a baby. Use the word contractions. Use the word having contractions, giving birth, whatever word you want to use. Just don't use the word labor, because the word labor means pain and it also means work. Please don't use the word pain. If you use the word pain, it reinforces something that is already painful in your subconscious mind. If you think of the word pain has a red color associated to it. It has a shape associated to it, very sharp, and you've also had experience with the word pain. So you got to change the verbiage in your head. Now, what happens when other people use these words? Okay, we're going to work on this in the Painless Childbirth course as time goes by. So don't worry about that for now, but as you go through your pregnancy, don't use these words anymore, okay? One more thing, very important. Things that you watch on TV, things that you read in a book or in a magazine are going to reinforce negative ideas. They don't talk about how great of a birth you're going to have. They talk about how difficult it's going to be. Stop watching that stuff. Get it out of your head. Don't bring it into your house. Don't turn it on your TV or watch it on cable. And, of course, your friends are going to tell you about how difficult of an experience they had. That's normal. Women like to share. It's their, it's their nature. You like to share. We all like to share. But when your girlfriends start telling you how difficult of an experience they had, you have a few choices. One choice that you have is tell them, listen, I don't want to hear about this. I'm very sensitive in this time of my life right now, and it's not the right thing for me to hear. Maybe you can tell me after I've had my baby. Another thing that you can tell yourself, if you don't want to say that to your girlfriend, or if that may seem a little bit harsh, is you might just want to tell yourself, this is her experience, not my experience. And if you keep telling yourself that mantra, it's going to block the negative words that are coming out of her mouth, or it's going to block the negative story so that you don't accept it upon yourself. Now, there's some women that have come through my path that have told me, I just outright tell them, shut up, I don't want to hear that. I just want to hear positive stories. Definitely, as I've said before in my 7 secrets, go onto websites that have positive birthing stories, go onto YouTube, go onto my website, and you'll see positive things. Expose yourself to positive things. Okay, so just to recap, number 1, I need you to stop talking about about birthing in a negative sense. Number 2, don't watch it. Don't absorb it upon yourself. Don't look at it on the internet. Only watch positive stuff. Well, that's the end of our first session. I hope that you enjoyed it. I surely enjoyed giving you this information. We've learned a lot of things, haven't we, today? We've learned about negative perceptions and the ideas of how a negative birth filters into the society, how it started thousands and thousands of years ago, how it filtered into movies and into magazines and books, and how it's even filtered down to you. And we've also learned on how to change certain perceptions and how important that is to begin to change the perception that you have about birthing and switch it over always to a positive sense. We talked about compounding and how important compounding is. Now, on the flip side of negative compounding, there's positive compounding. The more you compound positive things in your subconscious mind, the better birth you're going to have. Now, next time, we're going to learn about feelings and emotions, how they affect us, how we can change them, because let's face it, you can have the best relaxation and birthing techniques possible, but if you get scared, where are those techniques going to go? Right out the window, aren't they? So we're going to learn how to change feelings, how to channel out, or how to get rid of negative feelings, and that's all in our next class. So apply the things that you learned in this class, and I'll see you next time.